the head football coach of the Kings Fork Bulldogs, who won a heck of a ball game on Thursday night. I'm jealous of my colleague Will Garlick, who got to see a much better game than I did in person over there at Chesapeake. Anthony Joffrion's team wins it over the Braves 21-14 to move to 8-1 on the season. Coach, congrats on the W, but I know it's not a lot of time to celebrate because you got a big rivalry game coming up. Before we dig into all that, though, we were talking about Halloween. Did I see on I don't know if it was Instagram or X or Twitter, did you dress up as a football player? Did you bring back the old cleats, everything on Halloween?
Yeah, I haven't put a football helmet on since maybe 2016, 2015. But Zadarius won, he had a huge game the night before. And I've been joking all year that I was going to dress up as one of the football players. But I kept saying Kevin Knight. So everybody thought it was going to be number 7, Kevin Knight. But then I showed up as Zadarius Wynn, and the whole school thought it was hilarious.
Well, good deal. The Knight's the fabulous freshman they've got, Ed, son of, by the way, the former Lakeland coach. And Zadarius is having an awesome year. Certainly could be another one of our Chicho's Pizza Player of the Week candidates for this week. The only thing that drives me nuts about Zadarius, coach, is I can't spell his first name. I don't know how many times I look at it. He's got the 2 apostrophes. It's one of the hardest names to spell. But, boy, he's one of the fastest players in VA and in the 757.
Yeah, he's a great kid, man. Been in the program since the 8th grade. Just to see where he is now, man, going to North Carolina Central, which is a great program. Just excited for him in his future as well.
As you should be. You're gonna give his first name to Ed in our next spelling bee because it's a guaranteed X for Ed. He won't get that spelled right. Won't happen.
Now I'm gonna have to practice, and I know that thing. I want to know, since Anthony dressed up, was he a big trick-or-treater in his day, if not even still today? And obviously the obligatory question, what is his go-to candy? See, those are the hard-hitting questions. So first, Anthony, were you a big trick-or-treater? Do you still do it? And what's your go-to candy?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a funny story. So, I'm big on the Reese's. So, I know you made a comment about playing on Thursday. But it was actually really nice to have Friday off. I don't remember the last time I've had a Friday off. So I was actually able to, me and my family went trick-or-treating in our neighborhood. And the funniest thing was last night as I'm walking through the neighborhood, I saw at least, 100 of my kids that go to Kings Fork High School. And I'm just screaming up down the street, we got high schoolers trick-or-treating. And, I didn't know that was still a thing, I was letting my neighbors know, letting everyone know, don't give them candy. They're in high school. They're not little kids. But, they were giving them candy. But even saw a couple of my players. I'm not going to say their names. But we go to practice on Monday. We got high schoolers trick-or-treating. It's crazy.
Just run them, make them run laps, get the candy out of them. And I always thought the cutoff was once you became a teenager, once you hit 13. So that was at least what I was told as a kid. But
I saw a 16-year-old last night.
Yeah. For sure. Oh, listen, they would come to my door when I was home. I was in Lynchburg last night, but they would come to my door at 17, 18. And then where's the really bad part? The kids that come back the second time and third time, like we didn't see them before. They changed the disguise. Like, come on now. You're just trying to get more extra candy here. But please enlighten Ed, because he's been complaining to me since he became the new basketball coach at Smithfield about the Bay Rivers district schedule, and we don't have these games on Friday nights. What am I going to do? He should enjoy having Friday nights off every now and then, right? It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yes, it's not the worst, Ed. I got the kids were actually surprised. More importantly, the parents. They were like, they don't have practice on Friday. I was like, no, we don't have practice. And they couldn't believe it. I had, maybe 15 calls to the school on Halloween. Like, hey, coach, you sure we don't have practice? I'm like, yeah, we do not have practice. But, as I've gotten older, I think when you get a chance, you got to give the kids a break. You got to give them a break.
You do. This is true. Ed?
No, like I said, everybody knows I'm not a big Halloweener and a trick-or-treater and I couldn't give out candy last night either because I was at the Smithfield game working that game. So, but, I can see football, you say getting a Friday off here or there.
You were at the game, and that was your excuse not to hand out candy. You had to be at the game.
I had to be at the game. I was
asked. If there was another concert or show you had to be at, you would have been at that as opposed to the game. So
what's the rule? Like, if the lights are on, you don't knock on the door. What is it? If the lights are off, don't knock.
Right. I think that's what it is.
So you're that guy who cuts your lights out and don't knock on my door.
Hold on now. If I'm here, I'm going to put the lights. I bought 2 big bags of candy And a lot of the candy in the bag I don't really like, so I can't then buy it for myself. So I got to figure some way now to get rid of all that candy because that ain't for me. But I just wanted to be able – I wish we could have the picture. I wanted to see you as the football player, but I'll have to go hunt for it online.
We'll get it to you later. We'll have to play it on the show next week or something. But that leads me into we'll dive into the game coming up here. But the Indian River game, you probably expected, given you've had some fierce battles with them. I know you played like a double overtime game with them a couple years ago, as you did with Nansemond River. You've had some tight battles with Oscar Smith over the years. Your first game of the year we saw against Wise, which I think people have forgotten just how tough a game that was and how good a team they are that you were able to beat in a head-spinning back-and-forth tussle. But your kids have been prepared for these moments where it comes down to crunch time, correct?
Yeah, just within the district, over the years, the only team that has really gotten us is Oscar Smith. And I just think this year, as coaches and as players, we just, had our worst game. We got to do a better job, going forward and things like that. But I would say that loss, really, helped motivate our kids, and coaches, just doing a better job. And, Indian River, they're just, very well coached. The field, it was just really, a tough environment, to play in. It was very muddy. It was one of those type games, players really couldn't get their footing. So it turned into like a really, physical, type of game. And, and as a fan, I'm pretty sure you enjoyed to watch it, just to watch two teams just, play very physical for all four quarters.
Well, I want to ask you that before Ed jumps in here. You are a former football player from standout days, Ocean Lakes, defensive lineman, Shawan. Played for a couple of guys that we know quite well, Chris Scott, Tommy Austin, if I'm not mistaken, as well as your coaches. Are you one that I've run into NFL guys that hate it, and I don't know all reasons why, but the artificial turf grass discussion, which always gets discussed.
Yeah.
When you have rain like you did and you end up playing a muddy field, you're probably saying, I need that turf. But there are some players that don't love the turf. Where do you stand on it now as a coach and as a former player? What do you make of it? Because there are more turf fields than in the past, but when you play on a field that's not the greatest, it can also impact your performance and how you go about doing things, correct?
Yeah, but I think it's going to sound crazy. I think the beautiful thing about football is, you just got to show up and play. If it's turf, if it's grass, if you had to play on a basketball court. I know that sounds crazy. But football is one of those sports where you can't really control anything. You just got to go out there and play. You might play in the snow. You might play in the rain. So I think that's what makes football great. Even as a player, I was never, hey, we're playing turf this week. We're playing grass. It's going to be sunny because you can't control the weather. You just got to go out there and play. So I think that's what makes football great. You got to go out there and just play no matter what the conditions are. No matter what the field is, just got to go out there and play. I think that's what makes our game great.
We're chatting with Anthony Joffrion. He's the head football coach of the 8-1 Kings Fork Bulldogs, who are averaging 39.3 points per game, giving up just 14.7 points per game as they're coming off their fifth straight win, 21-14 over Indian River before a matchup at home against the rival Nansemond River, a Suffolk showdown coming up on Friday, November 7th. It is 757 Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe. Ed?
You're going into this game with Indian River. Okay, it's in a little bit of a different type of field in terms of the mud and whatever. Does that change your perspective on maybe what has to occur right in those first few series, whether you're on offense or whether you're on defense? What has to occur because of field condition, or once you put a game plan in, it doesn't matter about condition. This is what we have to do.
Yeah, I would say for us, it was, we have to be able to run the football. Running the football, like when you get to the playoffs, you're going to have to run the football. So for us, that defensive front from Indian River and their linebacking core, that's a very, physical group. Jamari Horton, Corey Sanderlin, number 5 for them, just really good players. And they made it tough for us to run inside at times. We even went quick game, like hitches, things like that. Their D linemen are jumping up, batting it down. It was a very physical game. And then, in the fourth quarter, we were able, to hit a couple runs outside, make some runs that we really needed towards the end. Artis Boone was able to, make some plays vertically, at the end of the game. But it's a physical football game. You got to be able to run the football at the end of the day.
I know.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
What I was going to say, when you're talking about running the football, and again, I call it a greasy field when it's got a lot of mud and slip and slide. One of our buddies is I think he deals with your running backs, Rod Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us something about what Rod Johnson is bringing to the table.
Yeah, Rod Johnson, he's a character, man. At first when he came on, he was a little nervous, a little shy, wasn't too comfortable around me, but now he's full blown. I love Rod Johnson. We have two running backs, we don't really have a starter. He rotates them, whenever he feels. They're both starters. And then, in today's culture, it's tough to get kids to buy into that, that you guys got to share carries, that you guys got to share the load. And Coach Johnson has done an amazing job of, making those kids believe that they're a family, that they're a unit, that the other kids' success is their success. And that's hard to do in today's culture. And he got them buying into their Sonic and Knuckles. And I think, they bought hats, they wear them before the game, and they're really into this Sonic and Knuckles thing. I think it's hilarious. And Coach Rod Johnson wears the hat. I don't know what he has going on, but he's a character. He's a character.
Well, see, Ed, we got to educate him. Sonic and Knuckles, that's like Sonic the Hedgehog, the video game where you had Tails back in the Sega Genesis days. And then Ed's still, that's totally foreign to him. But those two backs, Isaiah Gilliam and Preston Hall, have been doing great, which I got to throw in here, and I'm sure Ed will follow up. He loves it when you're throwing it on 4th and inches and flea flickers. You threw it on 4th and 1 from the 9. How big of a play situation? You have those backs, but tell me what went through that process, because that really was the game right there, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we're on the headset, and Coach Johnson, obviously he's like, give the ball to Sonic. It's 4th and inches, or Knuckles, whoever was in the game. And then, Coach Asper, he's been with me for 4 years, but he would have been my coach in high school. He's been coaching longer than I've been alive. And he's like, you got to run the ball. And I kind of said like, hey, DeAndre Artis Boone's been here since 8th grade, so has Darius Wynn. Let's take this shot. And it ended up working out. But those communications in the headset, man, they're priceless, man. Those are some of the things that you remember, forever. And I'll never forget that conversation. It was hilarious.
Ed can relate when he tells his assistant coaches to sit down. We're not going to press here or double team. I'm doing what I said, and that's what goes. It's fine, all right? You do that all the time, don't you, Ed?
Yeah, we need to start getting some headsets in basketball, so I can say what I really want to say without everybody knowing what I just said to them.
Yeah, exactly.
But my thing, Coach, when I heard Matt had said that about throwing it, I was excited because I'm always trying to tell you football dudes, 4th and inches, 4th and 2. Everybody in the world knows you're going to run, and they stack it up. Throw the flea flicker, do the flea flicker, the end around. Put the guard in the backfield, give it to him because everybody's going to think he's busting through. And as he runs, throw it right over the top to a tight end. It's open every time. And none of you guys want to listen, but you did, and you got a win out of it. I don't want none of the credit. Okay, that goes all to you. But tell those assistant coaches, you're the head coach. We're going what I say. They don't like it. There's openings next year.
Hey, it's tough in today's coaching culture, man, But, I got a great coaching staff. I know I'm difficult to work with at times, man, but, it makes it all worthwhile, man, when you're able to get out tough wins, especially when, it's tough. It's 7 days a week.
Ed's second favorite play of all time was the Tim Tebow jump pass for a touchdown, Coach. His number one is the next Notre Dame touchdowns. We are joined by Anthony Joffrion, the head football coach of the Kings Fork Bulldogs. I say next Notre Dame touchdown because Ed is a lifelong Fighting Irish fan. But big game for your team here on deck. Before we let you run, a couple more questions I want to throw your way, and we thank you for the time. You have Nansemond River coming up, and your defense has got a lot of ballers on it. You got Joshua Pittman, who we can maybe touch on. I know he's committed to Virginia Tech, but our school start recruit him. We talked about Brody Doyle out of Glenver, similar situation, setting records. He's committed to Charlotte. He's got offers from UVA and others now poking around, but Pittman's the guy people are trying to get. But you have some others that have stepped up, Ernest Jones Jr., Darion Knight, your secondary. How much is this game going to be about your defense now trying to slow down one of the area's top passers in the quarterback, Tyrell Grant Jr., who's committed to Syracuse, and that Nansemond River passing attack? It's a really neat chess match. Your defense, your secondary, your pass rush against that QB and those receivers coming up on Friday night.
Yeah, it's it's going to be a big game for us. We've been saying it all year. Defense, wins championships. Defense is what wins in the playoffs. So, Coach Steve Evans, Coach Joe Jones, I think they've done a great job of, consistently getting our defense better. Really excited for some of the battles out there. Reginald Davis, he didn't give up a catch last week. And they have, Indian River has some talented receivers. So I'm really excited to see him. We have a young free safety, Nasir Jones. He stepped in and he's looked amazing the last couple of weeks. Artis Boone in the secondary, Tyler Jordan at linebacker. It's a lot of battles where guys are going to have to make plays in key situations. So that's really what I'm looking forward to. We all know Tyrell Grant, is a phenomenal quarterback. So I'm really just excited to see how our defense, is going to rise to the challenge, especially on senior night. It's going to be a lot of motion, a lot of these seniors. It's going to be a great night.
Yeah, and at last check, Ed, the 5B playoff power points, they are razor close. Maury's the number 1 at 31.38. Kings Fork is 2 at 30.67. Then you have Warwick at 3, 27.67. Nansemond River at 4, 27.0. Not often do you see a 7 and 2 as a 4, 6 and 3 in Bethel as the 5 seed by that region that you are in, Coach, and Ed can chime in on it too. Very loaded, arguably as good as there is in the state.
Yeah, I'm definitely saying that it's almost like we talk in basketball. Sometimes it's tougher to get out of the region than it is to go win a state title in the States. But obviously, you got to take them as they come. Coach, I'm interested. Question I had on my mind. You're late in the year here now. You got your regular season finale coming up, playoffs coming up. Is there a couple players? I don't want to put you on the spot with one, but maybe a couple players who have come through for you that maybe at the beginning of the year you weren't sure, you were hoping, or you might not even remember their names back at the beginning of the year when got all those kids out there for workouts and whatever. But a couple, 3 kids maybe that have really come through that we don't maybe get a chance to hear a lot, or maybe they have done well and we've heard about them, but at the beginning of the year you weren't sure about them.
Yeah, I would say the biggest guy is, Terrell Godwin. He's been in the program since 8th grade. He's in his junior year now. He played at times last year as a sophomore, but he stepped up huge this year. He leads our team in receiving touchdowns. Against Indian River, 3rd and 5, number 58 actually tips the ball. And it was in tough coverage and he still caught it. So he's a guy like I'm super proud of. I definitely think he's going to get some Division I looks this offseason. Just excited for him, man. He's just a guy who's worked really hard. Especially, in today's culture, man, where everybody wants the football, everybody wants these early Division I offers. He's just been a kid who's just put his head down and just worked. And, to see the season he's having, man, it's all because of his hard work.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, we wish you all the best coming up on Friday night. The Bulldogs and the Warriors, Kings Fork at 8-1, Nansemond River at 7-2. Should be another raucous atmosphere in Suffolk. I'm upset I got to miss it because I have women's basketball radio responsibilities, so I'll be tuning in later on NFHS and following the updates throughout the evening. And Ed, by the way, will not be rooting against you like he's been for every other year now. He's no longer wearing the red and black of Nansemond. So
yeah, you got to come, Ed. You got to make a choice what sideline you want to go to. You got to come. You can get on the golf cart, man. We'll make sure you're comfortable. You got to come.
Yeah, well, I would need the golf cart enclosed, heat on, and I need some snacks.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll go from there because
you got to be with Derek Bryant, man. I heard he was your best assistant coach back in the day.
DB drove me crazy, man. DB drove me crazy. Yeah. I remember DB, you talk about stories. DB, hey, coach, I think we need a timeout. I said, DB, I think we need new players. Can you guys go find me new players? I'm going to call timeout for him, cuss him out. I already know we're doing that bad. Get me 5 new players. So DB, he was a good one. I hated to lose him, but he's a good one. But when he got your job as principal, I said, they let him in charge of a whole building?
Right. That's funny. Wow. I got to spend some time, man. Get on the board, talk some basketball. Because I can't sit with him at basketball games. He can't sit with anybody. He just sits there, and you can't really bother him during a basketball game. Yeah, you'll get him at a football game, though.
He's still in that coaching mode. Yeah, he's still in that coaching mode. DB's one of a kind, man. I love that guy dearly.
Yes, sir.
Well, Coach, enjoy the rest of your weekend and the big matchup coming up, and I'm sure we'll be chatting during the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Good luck to you, Coach. Go ahead and go through that bag of candy now and get what you want.